Hey everybody, this is PeakD&D, and we have a little bit of a different kind of video for you this week. By special arrangement with Dragori Games, we have here an early access copy of a new 5th edition rule set, Tanares RPG. This is a really interesting world. It's got new classes, new characters, and new mechanics to play with. We had a blast playing it, and we hope you'll check out the Kickstarter in the link below. Definitely back this one, guys. While you're here, why not do all the fun YouTube stuff? Thank you for joining us. Let's roll some dice.
Yes, hi, I'm Tony, and I'm one of the players at PeakD&D, and I ended up playing Ravel, the Mad Walker, a new class that is in Tanares.
I'm Max, Gaknak, team leader.
I am Ben from PeakD&D. I played Mbolo, the Tai Maku Courage Domain cleric, in our playtest of Tanares RPG for 5e.
I'm Nick. I am the Dungeon Master for PeakD&D. Mighty and terrible am I. And I had a blast with Tanares. We had a lot of fun running it. We played the early access version of that first module. Kind of takes you through the process of forming a team and what exactly that means in the world.
We decided to go with the pre-made characters that are in the module just to make it easy for us as far as turnaround, and to also present the characters that they created that they would probably want to see the mechanics drawn out for.
Anytime that you're running a whole new system, you're kind of hoping, oh boy, I hope there's some stuff there that I find interesting. There have been some campaign settings where I just didn't jive with the with the spirit of it. I think Tanares is really, really interesting, though. There's a lot about the world that I want to know more about. There's more characters I want to see have fun adventures in this world. And yeah, it's something I really enjoyed playing through with my friends. I saw heaven standing open, and there before me was a white dragon, whose rider is called Tamara, or Truth. With justice she judges those who deviate from the path of evolution. And I saw a second dragon flying through the sky, carrying the eternal scroll. Bauran sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven. The dragons proclaimed in unison to every nation, tribe, language, and people. Hear ye, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave. Blessed are the Tanarians, for the God's dwelling place is now among the people. There shall be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. A new rule now lies upon this land to guide your free will. There is only one way to meet tragedy. Massive bloodshed will be punished with natural catastrophe. That, my friends, is the Malrokian Curse. It is an ancient prophecy that has been, well, we'll say proven true on occasion. Most recently, it happened to the kingdom of Arcana, whose mages coveted the power of the gods, and whose cruel treatment of the people led them to revolt in uprising, causing a cataclysm that destroyed their great empire, covering it with a miasma of death. And for 100 years, it brought death to all who entered those lands. But now, the gods' punishment on the land of Arcana has ebbed. The mist has returned to ground, and what was once a lifeless wasteland is now a highly useful and unclaimed territory. This has not escaped the notice of the Empire, the central ruling authority of Tanares. They have decided that it would be in the world's best interest if they were to annex the wasteland and develop it according to their own preferences, so of course there won't be any bloody fighting, bringing about more natural catastrophe. In the interest of accomplishing this goal, the Empire is now sponsoring a series of small fiefdoms and granting land and titles to those who prove they are deserving of holding the land. And the easiest way to do that is through the arena. Because large-scale bloodshed is punished by catastrophe in this world, the Empire has formed a sort of compromise in conjunction with the Church of Evolution. The arenas. Here teams compete for riches, glory, and the interests of those they have chosen to represent. Victory in the arena brings you celebrity, it brings you wealth, and it brings you the backing of the Empire in your dealings throughout the world.
Tanares kind of seems like a fragmented sort of post-apocalyptic almost sort of setting.
And I thought there was a lot of interesting things. Like, okay, you've got an evil empire. Awesome. That's a fun thing to riff off of. The church, the evolutionist church, like just calling it that makes it kind of intriguing, as those ideas aren't always the most compatible with one another traditionally.
They make a lot of the avatar dragons in Tanares. These are like dragons that have come into the world with gods riding on their backs and proclaiming the truth of the world for everyone to obey or die. And I really want to know what their deal is. I guess I'm just a sucker for dragons.
Looking through all the preliminary materials that we had in the sort of primer adventure to get ready for this Kickstarter, it was really, there was a lot of depth there. You can tell that they've really fleshed out a lot of this world. I mean, with their previous games that are set in the world of Tanares and then now adapting it for 5th edition. One of the things that I was really excited about was this idea of the arenas to settle conflicts, to gain power.
Basically, in the world of Tanares, like, team is with a capital T. Like, being on a team means you are a celebrity. It means you are one of the few people in the world who know how to fight and can do it without a special permission slip from God.
Team combat was something that existed in the world. But for whatever reason, like, the whole pro wrestling thing just never occurred to me, which be that what it is. But as soon as Nick said that, it was like, oh yeah.
With a team, you of course have your membership, but you can like get a headquarters for it. You can design an emblem. Even the intro adventure has a blacksmith like engraving your equipment with your cool team logo, and it's just really fun. It kind of like gets a bit of a clubhouse mentality going, which is something that easily lends itself to some back and forth and some fun times in the arena.
Dungeons & Dragons, any tabletop role-playing game, ultimately it's what you bring to it that makes it so much fun and so awesome. And so to be put in an arena where like you are showman, you are there to entertain, I think that can help players be a bit more creative with their actions. Because like, I can say like, oh, I ultimate power a force wave and try to knock Gary out of the crow's nest. Or I can be like, okay, like ultimate power, I summon the might of the dragon and I throw my sword, like, you shall not, which I didn't do, but I could have. And there were moments, like running up to coup de grace and, being, more just bigger and bombastic with it.
It's very bombastic, it's high energy, you've got the crowd cheering for you right there, and there's even mechanics for like being the audience's favorite, being the person that everybody cheers for, versus being the heel team who people love to hate. And you could do either of those things, so I figure as long as that's right there, why not use that in a way that's fun, that's recognizable, and and there's always like a spectrum when it comes to how campy you want your games to be and how sort of silly, how much Monty Python versus how much Lord of the Rings you want to have. I tend to veer a little toward the Monty Python side. So I certainly had fun with it, but if you wanted to play it very straight and very high stakes and dramatic, you could certainly do that too with this system.
The Taimaku are a technologically advanced, sort of isolated sect of this society and this world. They're tinkerers. You automatically gain a proficiency with tinker's tools. You can build certain things given enough time. Like I had a monocle, an extended range monocle that I could wear that was basically like a telescope. The cleric was cool. I mean, the courage domain is pretty neat as well. Now, the courage point system for the courage domain cleric is very interesting. It just basically gives you some extra spells that you can do as bonus actions, and a reaction. I think it's sort of the 3 that you start with. You can have people reroll saving throws as a reaction, which is super awesome for arena fights and in the party. And the new cleric spells that were available in the Tanares world were really cool. Veil of Bravery was really neat. There was Arena's Fervor. It was called Arena's Fervor, and it gave everyone some bonuses to saving throws and things like that. But also, everyone was doing +2 damage on every damage roll for up to a minute, which that fight lasted about a minute. The idea of equilibrium being a key component of the Taimaku culture, you basically get your lowest ability scores. If they are within 2 of your highest ability score, you get to add basically a +1 to your ability scores. They count as 2 higher than they normally would be. I would build another Taimaku character that would also translate well into a more typical 5e setting.
Gaknak, the Red Dragon Blade. I really enjoyed that class. I tend to appreciate crowd control when it comes to role-playing. It's just kind of the characters I like. I like to be a thorn in the side of my adversaries. I kind of approach things from the idea of like, anytime I can take away your turn or make you react to what I do, that's a win for me and my team.
The Dragon Blade is also really, really cool, and it kind of seems like all based around summoning draconic spirits and utilizing them effectively to control the battlefield and make yourself and your allies more effective, in addition to being able to swing a sword and hurt somebody really badly.
The Dragon Blade had a good amount of that. You know, like typically when you think of fighters, that gets kind of dull. But with those dragon powers and that mechanic, and with like the way the ultimate power worked, with like they broke down the dragon powers into 3 types of powers, and if you used one of each, the third one you used got to be like the ultimate power and did more cool things. And so I thought that was pretty neat. And then the way they like turned it into the lore of the world, I thought was kind of cool.
Which is something that's really it's hard to do both of those things in one class and still make it balanced on a par with the other classes. And I feel like the Dragon Blade in particular does a really good job of that.
For the Mad Blocker, we had insanity points, or I had insanity points. So every spell, every cool ability that I used, up to my insanity, 12 insanity points. So everything that I pulled from the penumbral plane, that started going up, and every 3, then there's a mechanic that I might go a little mad. But I think that's a really cool mechanic to pull from spells or pull from this plane that you're playing kind of with and in, but it makes you go a little loopy.
You have the Mad Walker, who wields the power of the penumbral plane and can do all sorts of cool and terrifying things, but they have a cost to it because they have to manage their own mental fortitude against the horrors they are unleashing on the battlefield.
Maximum insanity I was trying to build up to while playing, because it is kind of a playtest and kind of a showing what this is all made from, but you end up becoming an abhorrent mutation. I just get so insane that I turn into something that is from the penumbra plane, and then I take on kind of their monster stat blocks and function as that kind of monster. We definitely all chose things that we haven't already been playing. A thief and kind of a spellcaster in the sense of like shadow walking or going to a different plane isn't something that I've played, and to dabble in the penumbral plane, which seems like a really integral part of Tanares.
So the penumbral plane is really interesting. It is, I see a little bit of the idea behind the Shadowfell in it, but it's significantly more than that. The penumbral plane responds to people's emotions in a really, really tangible way. So it's kind of this, it's sort of like the emotional reflection of the prime material plane, and something that fascinates me about the penumbral plane is that you could have like adventures there that involve dealing with the collective scarring that living in this world that just gets randomly nuked back to the Stone Age every so often. You can sort of like use that to explore the emotions behind living in the world of Tanares. So having that like already built into the setting, having it be exploited by a totally trustworthy government, it just, there's a lot about that activates my imagination, that makes me want to tell more stories in this world. But the minute I saw the artwork for the Penumbral Dragon, I was sold. I want 1,000 horrifying tentacle dragons in my life. Please, give me all of them. My favorite moment from our gameplay video is when people kind of just started realizing that they could do all of their cool stuff and just let loose with it, because it's an arena fight. This is probably the biggest fight we'll have today, so we can use all of our limited powers, all of our high-level spell slots.
Leaning into this whole idea of the arena combat and gaining renown through this interesting mechanic that they've created in this game.
And people actually kind of started making their own finishing moves just based on what they had available at the end of the combat, and that was pretty fun for me. I enjoyed that a lot.
The lore of the world and the new classes. Again, like, I love exploring new classes, and so the fact that there are new classes and new races that you haven't ever seen before is something that I think is rad. And
something that I really liked about the rules that were added has to do with team creation and how being part of a capital T team incentivizes good role playing and good group collaboration.
I would certainly recommend Tanares for anyone trying to play something new, especially if they've been playing D&D for quite some time, because it lends a lot of different cool special abilities in all the classes, a new domain to play with, a new background to play with as well.
It was unique, and a lot of the ideas and the characters and the classes are just really something you can sink your teeth into as a player and as a world builder, as a storyteller and DM.
So if you're into new and different and some like interesting, darker, I would say, lore, I think Tanares would be absolutely for you.
A lot of people play with only their best friends, and a lot of people play with total strangers. And this sort of system where teamwork is mechanical and incentivized by the rules of the game is something that you could really, really benefit from if you're playing with a group of people that maybe you don't know as well, and maybe you don't know what incentives they respond to.
You should support this Kickstarter if you like unique settings and intrigue and mystery being developed around the world and incorporated into the world. If you like having a character who might not know everything about the world at the start and moving through and discovering new things about you, about your character, and about your capital T team as you progress through this unique setting of Tanares.